Welcome back to Shit Creek Survivors, where we share stories of resilience and tools for resilience. Today, we're joined by a truly remarkable individual who embodies the power of turning pain into purpose. Our guest, known as Bullseye, the anti-bullying and humanitarian clown, wasn't always spreading joy. As a child, he faced the harsh reality of bullying, but his story takes a powerful turn, one that led him to connect with the legendary Patch Adams, embarking on a life-changing clowning trip to Moscow and ultimately opening new doors to bring laughter and healing to those who need it. From orphanages in Guatemala to retirement homes and hospitals around the world, get ready to be inspired by the extraordinary life of Bullseye.
And I want to learn about your story and what sent you on a trajectory to help so many people in such an amazing way. And so I'm getting way too. I've obviously thought about this.
Give us your spill, yeah.
This is your stage. Yeah, this is your stage, and we don't have a time limit. It's whatever you'd like to share, kind of like the who, what, when, where, how, and from there, I guess you can just take it. And again, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, honestly, this is not exactly the trajectory I saw for my life. I did not think that I would become a clown in my 50s. So I actually wasn't a clown actually at all before this. I did stand-up comedy for 10 years. So, but again, we talked about, you talked about being bullied as a kid. So, you know, I was bullied at a very, very early age, in high school and in junior high. You know, the kids pushing you into the lockers, calling you names. And I never told anybody, you know, that wasn't something that I wanted I didn't want to tell my parents, because I thought, well, my parents would think that there's something wrong with their child if their child is getting bullied. And, you know, so I just didn't say anything. So I thought, you know, I just got to figure this thing out.
They go back to the school, could make it worse for you.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I just kind of started to figure things out on myself. Yeah. Well, yeah. You know, and that's one of the things they always tell people, oh, tell somebody that you're being bullied. Well, that might be great and all, but like I said, the bully is going to get more aggressive if they know that you've told on them. And then if the person that you've told doesn't really do anything with that information, then it's just falling on deaf ears. So nothing's really going to change anyway. And so I kind of got really crafty. You know, I mean, I guess I probably should have seen that I was going to be a clown later in life, because I became like a class clown. You know, when kids would come up to bully me, I would, you know, make some kind of a scene, like scream fire or roll on the floor and just do crazy things. And then the kids started going, that guy's nuts. You know, we're not going to mess with this kid. And so I just started remapping my day. Like if I knew I was always getting bullied at a certain situation or at a certain point of the day, like after third period, well, then I wouldn't go to that particular spot at third period. I would make sure that I went to that spot at a little different time where I knew that the bullies weren't going to be there. So I just kind of really started kind of remapping how I motivated through the day. I tried to stay with people. I mean, I wasn't real popular as a kid. But I would try to just walk in groups of people, because I figured if I'm in with the group, they're not going to attack me if I'm in a group of people. You know, and thank God back in those days, we didn't have the internet. I mean, if the bullies wanted to get you, they had to make house calls. You know, they had to show up on your front lawn and you know, hang your underwear up the flagpole. We didn't have, you know, TikTok and Facebook and all that stuff for them to bully you. So that was actually one good thing actually at that time. And then that just kind of went into, as I got older, you know, I would get bullied at work. I mean, I never stood up for myself. So even though I created ways, you know, I found creative ways to outmaneuver the bully, like, you know, distract them and things like that. I never really dealt with it. I never really told them no, or I never really stood up for myself. And so that kind of just kept carrying on through, you know, some of the jobs that I've had and things like that. And then, of course, as I mentioned, been into stand-up comedy, and I did that for 10 years. But again, you know, you're alone on a stage and people can shout stuff out at you, and you're still very, very vulnerable on stage. And after doing that for about 10 years, I'm like, you know, I don't want to do this. There's got to be something more to life than this, you know. You know, just telling jokes.
That was really brave.
Yeah, I mean,
that was really brave. stand-up comedy, I've thought of, I mean, just me considering getting on the stage and looking out at the darkness while you have the lights on your face. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it takes
Yeah, but you're kind of in control
some
of your
courage to
fear
get up
there.
there.
You're
So
kind of putting yourself in control of it by putting yourself on the stage. You put yourself there. You can set up the audience with a little bit with your pre-joke or whatever, and then you can kind of take it the direction you want to. I don't know. There might have been some survival instincts in there that you didn't even think you were doing. Same thing with the same thing with like
Yeah,
that defensive mapping in the school to go in a different direction. You're kind of defensive mapping is the term that came to my head when you're describing it. I don't know if that's a legit one or not. I
yeah.
might
Well,
have just
hey,
made it
hey,
up. But yeah, but you're avoiding and
but
then you're
hey, it
avoiding
sounds really good
conflict.
though.
Well, you get the
Exactly.
credit. You
Yes.
started it. Yeah, but then you avoid conflict and all that kind of stuff, and it grows into your adulthood. But going on stage and facing that fear has got to be a good step in the right direction, I think. So I applaud you for that.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, I thought it was kind of stupidity. It's like, but I really didn't get a lot of the heckling. I mean, now if I was in West Virginia, I got a little bit, because I memorized some of these little smaller venues. But actually, what was
yeah.
really interesting at one of the places I was playing, I had one guy in the crowd yelling at me, "You suck! Get off stage!" And then I had other people who were yelling at him saying, "Shut up, we're trying to listen."
Yeah.
And so then I had like this fight happening.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I have to be on there for like whatever length of time I'm booked. So if I'm booked for 20 minutes, I gotta stay up there for 20 minutes. So I'm like, dude, I'll talk slower. I'll make this last longer if you don't shut up. So so after doing that for about
I
10
like
years,
that.
after about doing that for 10 years, I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna stop. I was really hoping, of course, to be like this famous actor, famous comedian that transitioned into movies, and that just didn't happen. And I was like, at some point, I just kind of got to the point. I'm like, you know what, I'm tired of trying that, and it's not going the way I had hoped it would. And I wasn't, of course, the leading man type, so I knew I wasn't going to be like a Tom Cruise or anything like that. So I just decided to quit doing stand up, and I just went and got a little menial job at a factory, and which was horrible. I won't say what company I worked for, but it's a really big company.
Yeah, but if you went from
And
stand up to a factory, you felt like a caged bird. I guarantee you. I know that feeling too. So I bet you
exactly,
I
yes,
understand
So, so I started working at this factory, and of course, I never really dealt with any of those feelings from years ago. I never really dealt with being bullied, and I also, and to make matters worse, I did grow up with an alcoholic, abusive stepfather. It would be like I would go to school, and then whenever I came home, I was still not getting away from the bullying because I would get it at home.
Yeah.
So it was just like this, and I never dealt with any of that. I bottled
I'm
it
so
all up,
sorry.
and like I said, and I just kind of reworked. I mean, like I said, even at home, I would remap. When my stepfather was in like a drunken rage or whatever, I would lock my bedroom door and he'd become pounding on the door looking for me. I would hop out the window. I would run around outside. He would go outside looking for me, and then I'd be back in my room before he knew it. And then by that point, he forgot what was happening. So I just got very creative with with how to get out of situations.
Wow.
But I never really dealt with it. I never, and still to this day, I've never gone to therapy. So I've never had therapy of any kind. And then my real dad passed away in 2018. And so when that happened, so that I had that compounded on top of all this bullying that I never really talked about.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what, there's more to life than this job, this factory job. I don't know what to do exactly, but so my dad died. I quit my job. I didn't really know what I was going to do. And then I remembered seeing a movie years ago called Patch Adams. I don't know if either one of you have seen it with Robin Williams.
Absolutely.
And so,
Absolutely.
and so I realized, hey, that guy's like a real guy. I wonder if that guy's still alive. So I kind of logged on to I found a website for him, and I saw that he did these clown tours all over the world. And I was like, maybe I should just get away for like a couple of weeks and go on some clown tour. So he doesn't do email, or he doesn't even have a cell phone. So I had to do the old snail mail. I wrote a letter to him saying, hey, I saw that you're going to Russia. They were going to Russia. This was in 2018. And I said, I've never really done clowning. I mean, I've done stand-up comedy before, but I've never really done clowning. Is this something that I should do? And so he said, oh yeah, come along. So before I knew it, here I was. I was on a plane to Russia with the 35 clowns, and and we were dropped right in the
Oh
middle of
my goodness.
yeah. So we were dropped into Russia. We did St. Petersburg and Moscow. We landed in Moscow, and I was kind of like a clown boot camp. I kind of learned as I went.
Yeah.
We were thrown into hospital rooms and orphanages and burn units and okay, go be funny. Um, and at first I thought,
Yeah.
oh, how hard can this be? And then I realized, oh, wait a minute, I don't speak Russian,
Tugging on
and
the
these Russians
heartstrings.
don't speak English.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, so I can't tell jokes because that's not going to work because none of these people speak English.
Right.
And so, yeah. And as you were talking about pulling on the heartstring, and I really honestly, I never thought once this trip was over that I would continue doing it. I thought I'm going to go, I'm going to meet this celebrity Patch Adams. We're going to do this clown tour for 2 weeks in Russia. I'm going to come home and then I got to figure out what I'm going to do with the rest of my life.
Right.
And then when we were there, it was just, I saw the power that we had as clowns with the people that we were clowning with. Just like, I'll just give you like a couple little examples. One, it was just a minor thing. We're on the bus and we're traveling from one place to another. We're on our way to an orphanage and we stop at the stoplight. There's a little bus stop out there. And I see an old woman holding a bag of groceries, even though there's like 10 people at this bus stop. Nobody's really paying any attention to her. And so I just kind of pecked on the window, and I started to wave at her and she's like, she started to wave a little bit. And so I waved a little faster and she waved a little faster. And then all of a sudden, all of the clowns on the bus saw what I was doing. So all of the clowns on the bus turned and they started to wave at the woman. And so at that point, the light changed and the bus started to pull away. The woman sat down on the bench that was right there at the bus stop and she started to cry. Now, why she was crying, I don't know. I mean, maybe she was just glad we didn't kidnap her. Or the way I took it was that, maybe that was the first time that day or that week that somebody actually saw her and actually paid attention to her.
That's what I was
And
saying.
so
She
to me,
felt seen.
that happened. Yeah. And that happened like right away. And one of the things I wasn't really expecting is, for anybody who's been bullied, we try to blend in. We don't want to stand out. We like to just blend in. And that way, if nobody sees us, well, when we got to Russia and we're dressed like this, everybody sees you. So you go from nobody noticing you to everybody noticing. And that's a culture shock in itself. It's like, we couldn't go anywhere because Patch had a rule that you were dressed like this 24/7. There was never a time we were out of our costumes.
Oh,
so
wow.
So everywhere we
Oh
went,
goodness.
I mean, we would go eat. We actually went to the Russian ballet dressed like this, So of course they put us
Oh
way up in the
wow.
balcony so nobody could see us. But so it became overwhelming. And you learned how to be empathetic with people. Kind of, you had to, we were in a hospital. It was a hospice, and we were told we could go anywhere we wanted except we were not allowed to go in this one room. It was the last room on the left. We weren't allowed to go into it. And so we went into all the other rooms. All the clowns split up because there was 35 of us. So each of us took different floors and different wings of different floors. And of course, I happened to be on the floor where I wasn't allowed to go into that room. And Patch Adams' rule was Patch Adams was, you see everybody. It doesn't matter. Even if they're, comatose, just go in, touch their hand, do something, you don't.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I don't know, but this guy told me not to go in. This doctor said, don't go in the room, And so, of course, I'm saying,
Right.
why can't I go in there? Oh, she's mean. It's an old lady. She's mean. Nobody's ever visited her. She'll cuss you out. She'll throw things at you. And I'm thinking, she's on hospice. How hard could she possibly throw anything?
Right.
And
Right.
and if she cusses at me, it's in Russian. I have no idea what she's even saying. So when I got done with the floor and I noticed there was no doctor around, I thought, you know what? Patch Adams would be very upset if he found out I did not go into this last room. I'm like, my job is to go into these rooms. I'm here for one purpose, and my purpose is to go into each room. So that's what I'm going to do. So I just slowly opened up the door, and I had bubbles with me. I mean, I was not a clown, so I couldn't, a real clown at that point I felt, so I couldn't juggle or do anything crazy. So I just had these bubbles. And I just started blowing bubbles. And as I entered the room, she was actually facing the window, so she wasn't paying attention to the door. And so I just kept blowing bubbles as I walked into the room. And eventually some bubbles kind of floated across her face and she turned and looked. And of course, I have no idea what her thoughts were when she saw like a clown standing there, holding bubbles. And I was ready
Right.
for her. I was ready for her to throw something. I'm like, I can duck. I'm sure I can do it. And she motioned for me to come over and sit on the bed. And so I went over and sat on her bed. And I can't really talk to her because I don't know Russian. And she was trying to say stuff, and of course, I was trying to get her to blow bubbles. That was my mission. I'm like, just get her to blow a bubble, and then you can leave the room. And so I blew the bubbles, and I showed her how to blow the bubbles, and she tried it, and like maybe one bubble came out, and I'm like, oh no, you gotta blow harder, and let's try this again. And so we did it again, and maybe like two bubbles come out. I'm like, no, really hard, and so she blew again, and there were like bubbles filling the room, but then her teeth flew out, and they flew clear across the room. and and so she busted out laughing. She laughed so loud, and I'm like, shh, I'm not even supposed to be in here. Be quiet. So I'm running over and I'm trying to find her teeth. About the time I find her teeth and I'm holding the teeth up, the doctor walks into the room. And here I am standing there looking like some international tooth thief, holding these teeth up.
Yeah.
And he looks at her and he had never heard her laugh. He was like, he was much, I've never heard her laugh. And so, it was moments like that that kept happening the entire 2-week period that we were in Russia. Things like that just kept happening. And so when I got home, I thought, wow, there's something to this. And one of the things I didn't expect when I got home is when I got home and I kind of sat down, I was trying to process everything and process my life and what am I going to do with the rest of my life. And I realized that all of those feelings I had about my stepdad, about being bullied, about the death of my father, all that anxiety and angst and anger was gone. Because I spent,
wow.
yeah, I mean, I spent basically 14 straight days, and
On who I
my
lost.
job was to be happy. My job was to make other people happy. Don't think of, so it's like you didn't have time to think about your own problems, didn't have time to think about, and I tried to get angry about that stuff after I was done. I was like, oh, wow, and then it wasn't there. The anger and I don't know, maybe it was because for 2 straight weeks, I didn't think anything about it because I was completely focused on something else. Because you can't be happy and angry at exactly the same time. Those two feelings can't coexist at exactly the same time. And so you just I just shut out the anger, shut out the, the hurt and all of that stuff. But then when I came back, I realized, what, that's not there. I tried to, and so I guess that's why I've never had therapy, because I was like, I didn't really, I mean, even to this day, I don't have any anger about that. I don't think about being bullied. I don't, you know, and even if somebody should say something to me that I feel is mean, I'm to the point now I can laugh that off and it doesn't affect me the way that it did then. And so, um, and I think one of the things for me anyway, or what I think what clowning does for a lot of people is when you're out there and you can't really talk about your feelings or what's happening to you. There's no pressure to talk about what's upsetting you because you don't have that availability, I guess, because nobody can speak the language unless unless they know English. You know, but then we were just kind of in a service mindset. It was just kind of like, okay, our job is to make this person in the burn unit is to make them smile and to see that pain leave their face, even if it's just for, 5 minutes that we're there in that room or 10 minutes or whatever it happens to be. And another thing that it did is, I used to get, oh, what if I do this wrong? Because I've never been to clown before, and so, and I found that that's the joy of being a clown. That's the whole point. You don't have to do things perfectly because actually, when you mess up, it's one of those. It makes it actually funnier.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so,
and you almost like. I was going to say when someone's being like that in front of you and being silly, if you will, or just making light of the situation, like. I'm just imagining, at my worst place, if someone walked in the room, I didn't want anyone there in the hospital room, blah, 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 blah. But the fact that you walk in there and make the effort to be silly, not too serious, and it just gives them a second. And that's amazing what you do, because that second means everything, to be like, just a little relief from the pain, whether it be emotional, spiritual, physical, just a moment that you provide for them. That's amazing.
And everybody always says, oh, clowns are for kids. Actually, I tend to clown more for adults than I do with the kids. I mean, we actually provided just as much, I guess, therapy or happiness to the parents of the children. I mean, they were thrilled to see, the pain leave their child's face for 10 minutes that we were there. And it was 10
Yeah.
minutes. It was 10 minutes that they got relief and they could actually see their child smile again, or the nurses, we would crack the nurses up and they had a very stressful job. So we actually find ourselves,
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, so we actually, and Patch Adams actually, I don't know if you've ever seen it. He has a video,
I have.
the clown vets.
Oh, I have not seen that. I'm sorry. No,
Okay.
I've seen the movie. I thought that's what you were saying.
Yeah, no. So he did a documentary. Actually, it came out the year that we went to Russia. So 2018. He took a group of vets who had post-traumatic stress on a clown trip. He had contacted a local vet group and said, I want the worst people that you have who have post-traumatic stress, and I really would like them to go. And we will pay for it. We will not ask them to pay to go on this trip. I want them to go. And so this documentary followed these vets with post-traumatic stress before they went on the trip, while they were on the trip,
Okay.
and when they came home from the trip. And it was just amazing seeing how different they were from the beginning of that documentary till the end of that documentary. And it's on YouTube, so you can actually just go to YouTube and look that up.
I'm going to, for
And
sure.
then you can kind of get an idea of what it is exactly that we do on our clown trips.
Yeah, clown trip for vets. That is very interesting. I'll look that up. Thank you for sharing. And what about clowning you think helps those guys? Is just kind of getting out of their own skin, like you were saying, kind of being in service to other people, or
Yeah,
putting another outfit on?
well, and I think that there's also, you're not in a clinical setting, so you're in a completely different setting than what you would normally be if you were going to therapy and laying on the therapy couch or doing anything like that. Um,
Right.
and
Yeah.
and honestly, it takes the focus off of you and puts it onto somebody else. You're focused on empathy when you're in there. I mean, that's what you're focused on. You're focused on this particular person, even if you have no idea what you're doing. Um, there was a day that I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't know, I don't have no idea what else to do, so I just went in. We went into like an orphanage, and I just went over to the corner and I sat in the corner, and I started maybe just blowing bubbles, and the kids would just come to you. I mean, they would actually come to you and actually sit on your lap, or they would come over and they would just want a hug. And so I just thought, instead of being like this crazy playful person, I'm just going to try just to sit and see what happens. And the kids, they just
Uh-huh.
came over to you. They wanted a hug. I had temporary tattoos. I would give them like temporary tattoos, and I would kind of play around
Cool.
with them that way. So it's like you don't really have to know what you're doing in order to do it. You just have to go with an open mind and an open heart, and it's amazing what doing. What I always tell people: the best way to get out of your own mind and to kind of help your depression is to do nice things for other people. And it doesn't,
I agree.
and you don't even have to know if they enjoyed it. That I guess is not the point. The point isn't how are they going to receive the gift that I'm giving them. You just have to give it. I mean, I used to get very upset if I had opened the door for somebody and they didn't say thank you. And I was like, well, you're welcome, and things like that.
Yeah.
Now I just do it just to do it with no expectation. And so that's kind of what these
Hmm.
trips are. These trips are, you just go and you don't have really any expectation of, um, and I may never know. I mean, I've gone to Russia, Morocco, I've gone to Guatemala twice. I've gone to Costa Rica. I don't know half the people that I probably may have helped. There might be still people there talking about the clown that came to visit. That I have no idea. The fact is, I
Yeah.
went and we did the best we could. Now I've kind of taken Patch's trips, and I kind of just made one difference on my trips. So I actually started my own company once I came back called Clowns on a Mission. And how we are.
I saw that on YouTube. I saw the from your page. I was able to kind of look at some of your videos. They're very cool.
Yeah. So what Clowns on a Mission is, it's basically just like Patch's Tours. We go in, and we picked Guatemala just because I had somebody on the ground in Guatemala that I know who could help set the things up. So we go into Guatemala,
Right.
and we actually will take what they need. So not only do we go into orphanages and we go into schools, and we go into the local landfill. There's a community that lives in the local landfill. Not only do we clown with them,
Okay.
but then we provide them food. We bought like 10 carts of food. We bought the first year we bought 400 pounds of food and handed out food everywhere that we went. We also gave 200
Wow.
backpacks out filled with school supplies. So we just go to different areas. And so that's the one way I wanted to change my trips, is I wanted to give back in some way. Because I'm like, we're here,
Yeah.
and they're having fun with us, but I'm like, I would like to leave something behind that at least, they can use, something that's beneficial to them other than, love and joy and compassion and all that stuff, which is also very important. But we wanted to leave something else behind. So that's kind of how my whole my whole life got started. And at 47, that's
That's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, talk about going out there, wanting to conquer the world, and then being like, you know what? I'm going to focus on what I can do. And then just leaning into you. That's so amazing. And like what you're doing is the total epitome of like what we're saying, planting seeds without ever enjoying the shade from the tree you may even plant.
yeah,
Just putting yourself out there in service, putting yourself out there in a way that people can kind of grab onto. You know what I mean? Like I would like some of that happiness. You know what I mean? And that's so neat. I mean, and I understand that you also do this sometimes in a corporate setting. Is that true?
yeah. I definitely go in and I do talks, and I would love to get some more corporate people actually to kind of get out of their own heads and actually go on some of these trips with us. I mean, that's you know I think
Yeah.
nothing would help their business more than to have a bunch of workers working for them who are empathetic, not only to their people that they work with, but for their customers. You know what I mean? I mean, we're all
Yeah.
here for a purpose. I mean, our customers are basically the heroes of our business. I mean, we would have no business if we didn't have, customers. And so, I think
Right.
that's really important for everybody to learn that, um, you
Yeah.
need to figure out a way to get your customers more involved.
Yeah, and feel like they're heard. Because I
Absolutely.
think I think lately, I think a lot of the times we're running into people in customer service situations who genuinely give off a vibe like they don't actually care what happens. Just
Right.
you know what I mean? Like you go
Yeah.
into your cell phone store and you don't really get. Anyways, I get what you're saying. That's very interesting. The fact that you want them to walk away with that be and yeah, taking it into the corporate setting. I absolutely see how that would. I mean, one of the things you need to do, like when you get in front of like an audience, something that I find is you almost have to shock them first to draw them in, you know, and you've got that as soon as you walk in the door. You know what I mean? All those curtains come down and they're like, whoa, what's this about?
Yeah.
And then you kind of access spaces in them that aren't usually available, just by bringing down those borders and being like, all right, well, what's going on here? Dennis is coming back in for whatever reason
Okay.
he got dropped off. So
Yeah, I'm not sure what I was going on with that.
no worries, no worries. We continued on. We were just talking about how Bullseye now goes into corporate settings, and he's encouraging more business owners to take on the idea of bringing someone in who can not only bring up the empathy for individuals within the workplace so that, you and I as coworkers learn more about one another, we vibe more one another, and we're more empathetic to one another, as well as to the customer, like learning and almost like reprogramming. Okay, our customer is the reason why we're here. They are the reason the business is being driven forward. Let's, let them know that we appreciate them and everything they're doing for us, and get them involved in the process, instead of just being almost seen as a burden as a customer.
Yeah, okay.
You get what I mean? Like bring them in, make them feel that, they have value and that, they're picking you on purpose instead of just like we're doing you a favor, sending you the
Yeah.
gift or whatever. Anyways, so we were just talking about that, which I think is super interesting and a great way to bring down people's barriers. Because I was saying, like, when I go in front of people, like I spoke at the jail last week, right? The first thing I had to say to them to kind of like acclimate to that environment is, yes, I'm a former police officer, but I did get shot in the face if that helps. And so immediately that curtain kind of came down and they didn't just see me as a police officer. They saw me as a human. They saw me as a person in front of them and they listened. They were like, okay, I'll listen to what this guy has to say, or at least beginning the question.
You're already saying what they were thinking once you said you got shot in the face.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But Bullseye has the advantage. He just walks in the door, and immediately those curtains come down. They're like, "What is this guy going to talk about today?" And I think that's just such a great way to like draw people in, have them listen to what you're saying,
straight away disarm them from the very beginning, so they're kind of more receptive to whatever you're going to say next. They're like, what's going on here? Let's see what's happening.
Well,
it's a tactical move.
What's interesting is whenever we actually, when we went to Mexico with Patch Adams and when we went to Costa Rica, both of those places, he actually took us into a prison. So when we went to Mexico, we went into a women's prison, and it was a women's prison where they could have their children up to the age of 6, that their children could stay with them until they were 6 years old.
Wow.
And then at that point, the children had to leave and either go live with family or they were actually put into an orphanage if they had no family to go to. And I was a little nervous about the prisons because, I didn't know what to expect. The women's prison was okay. The women's prison, we had a lot of fun. Then when we went to Costa Rica, we went to a men's prison where it was men from like 16 to like 25 or so. And they weren't quite sure how to take us. So we were like in there kind of, and we're trying to get them to, play with balloons and stuff. And they were like, dude,
Yeah.
So
they're probably thinking, I've got people watching me.
Exactly.
I'm trying to blend in here.
Yeah, exactly. So that one was that one we had to, and it was funny. We would just kind of rotate. The clowns would rotate around. So luckily there's 35 of us. So, eventually we would find like the people who were the most receptive to what it was that we did. So, and that's kind of what it was. It was, that was probably, of all the places that I personally have ever gone into as a clown, that probably was the most challenging, was that men's prison. But by the time we were done, I mean, they were all cheering us and they were thankful that we had come, probably just because they got to, either get out of their cell for, an hour and a half,
a break in the monotonous.
Exactly.
Breaking the monotonous daily behaviors that they have, daily rituals that they have.
But yeah, so I mean, that was so I get what you're saying about going into a prison. Just because we're a clown doesn't mean that we're any more receptive.
Yeah. I just didn't like the idea they had been put there by a police officer.
Right.
Yeah. So I was like,
you also say, another thing I thought about this with all we're talking about here, you kind of automatically disarm people when you walk in with your outfit on. And now we have a hard time. I don't know. I've had a hard time realizing, like, when I walked into a room with a uniform on and a badge and a gun, I had everybody's attention also. And when I first left law enforcement to go into sales, I had a hard time transitioning. And just right now, I'm having a hard time transitioning after leaving the profession for the second time now, for good. That I don't have the attention on me when I walk around. I like that. I don't like having attention on me. But when I was trying to do sales, I needed that attention. And I didn't have anything else to disarm them and break down those barriers.
Now you
do. It's just a weird thought of processes.
Just go into your sales job dressed like this. That'll get some attention.
Exactly, and it would disarm them some.
But that's the one thing
I can't believe you work with Patch Adams.
Yeah, one of the things that I did notice with our costumes is they will allow us to do stuff that I would never be able to do if I didn't have the costume on. I mean, we got into places in Russia and Mexico, places that we normally would never probably have been allowed to get into, like the prisons, for instance. We probably would never have been able to go into a prison if we weren't dressed like this. So it kind of allows us.
So the next Ocean's 11, iteration is going to be, they're all going to dress as clowns to be able to get into the to the
There you
bank
go.
vault somehow or something, right?
That's right.
That's so fun.
Yeah, imagine if you would have tapped on the window at the bus stop for that old lady and when doing all the waving and stuff, but you didn't have the makeup on.
Well, so
Yeah.
so speaking of that, you brought up a really good topic. So in Russia, after the first week, some of us were, like you were mentioning, we were in a culture shock because as a person who was bullied, we kind of went through life and we tried not to get noticed. Now we're thrown into
Mhm.
another country where everybody notices us. Everywhere we go, people are recognizing us and seeing it.
Yeah.
Well, it became a lot for some of us, so there was a day where like we just need a day off. We need to not be able to clown for today because this is just a lot. And so Pat said, okay, for the clowns who don't want to go out today, just stay back, don't get into your costumes, just go have a day in Russia doing whatever. So we go to this mall because we were looking for some like little toy store to maybe pick up some toys for the following week. And I found myself when we're in the mall and I'm like going, hello, and I was just being stupid, and so these people were giving us very strange looks. And I was like looking to what they're clowns. I'm like, why are they looking at us like so strangely? He goes, dude, we're not dressed up. And I'm like, oh yeah. I was like, they probably think we're stupid. so I totally get it. Yeah.
That's funny. And
yeah. So then you kind of get into that, and I'm kind of in that mind frame now. It's like even when I'm not dressed up like this and I go somewhere, I have to remind myself, hey, you're not dressed up, because a lot of times when I am dressed up like this, I pretend like I'm not. I walk along.
Right.
I'll walk into Walmart like this. I mean, I figure I look better than half the people in Walmart. so I'll just go into Walmart dressed like this, and then I'll pretend like I'm not dressed up. I mean, I'll be looking at the labels on the things and put stuff in the cart and just ignoring the fact that I'm dressed like this. And and it's just interesting to hear the people or listen to the people talk like, does that guy know he's got a clown costume on? Yeah.
So you weren't acting like a clown then, and that confused people even more.
Yeah, so I'm just like, well, how does a clown act? So I was just in there. I'm just, okay, this day, yeah, and just, and just going about my business and seeing how people react. I mean, I've gone to gas stations and pumped gas like this. It doesn't matter.
Just put your head on there.
Yep.
That's really funny. You're like depositing joy throughout your day and just kind of walking away from it. And people are just like, what in the heck? And then they go home and they're like, I saw this clown today at Walmart. You know what I mean? So
and I'll be driving down the road and I'm just in my car. I might be singing along to the music, and I'm just not totally ignoring the fact that I know people are looking at me from both sides of the road, and I'm just in my own little world, and I'm just pretending like nobody's around.
that is awesome. And so
we should do more of that without clown makeup anyway.
We could, yeah.
I mean, everybody should do it. Just be more carefree, and who cares if people are watching you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know why like we have that governor. I mean, there's sort of like a governor's like, oh, am I doing too much? Am I being too much? Am I helping? Even like, am I helping too much? Am I inserting myself into something I shouldn't be? That sort of stuff. When really, like, if you're just yourself and you get in there with purity, like with pure intentions and joy, you can walk away from anyone, whether you know them or not, and like, know you did a good thing.
Well, yeah. I think as we get older, we're told things are not appropriate. It's not appropriate to laugh at that. It's not appropriate to be dressed like this. It's not appropriate to laugh at a funeral. And to me, I just go along with there's never an inappropriate time to bring joy to someone. So, I mean, I would walk into stuff. Actually, I've actually worked two celebrations of life. I've actually gone to funerals dressed like this because they asked me to.
Oh, wow.
Because like the husband said, told his wife, I want to clown at my funeral. So, and she happened to find me on the internet and says, hey, this is like a weird request, but would you go to my husband's funeral and like do balloon animals? So I did, I just kind of walked around, was doing balloon animals. Awesome. Cause I'm like, there's never an inappropriate time. And if that's what she wanted and that's what he wanted. And then I also did one. I went to a senior living community and there was a woman who had cancer and she hadn't passed yet. And she saw that I had done some funeral stuff. And she said, it's really interesting, when people die, all these people come out of the woodwork and they say such wonderful things about the people that have passed, and the people who are alive, you know, they're dead. They don't know all these wonderful things. She goes, would you be willing to do like an awake wake where we do like a funeral service, but I'm not dead yet, and we get all my friends together and they all come and say things about me?
Yeah.
And we did.
Just said something about this.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. Her husband and her children were not real keen on this idea at the beginning. They're like, "This is the dumbest thing," and they
Yeah.
and the one son would not come. He was like, "No, this is just too much, you know, because we're gonna have to deal with your funeral later." And she says, "I know, but
Right.
you're all gonna say these things at my funeral, and I'm not gonna hear any of it. And so I want to hear it now while I'm still alive." You know, so we did it. And then she died like maybe 3 weeks later. And so I was really and it was funny. I have a photo of me and her. She's got a clown nose on, and her one son said, you know, my mother has always been serious her entire life. I have never seen her with like a clown nose on. So he loves that photo just because it's the only photo he's ever seen of her where she's like being silly and she has a clown nose on.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's like, you know,
So you're tearing me up over here.
Yeah. Got the goosebumps going, got the tears coming.
but
Man, talk about
hitting that frequency. Yeah, we just went to a celebration in life, and I said the same thing to my wife. You know, it's kind of sad that we don't get to see what everybody says about us when we're gone. They should do more of that. And I knew there was probably a thing, because anything you think of, somebody's probably already thought of it and done it too. But you're telling me it's actually happening. People are having this on a regular basis, and awake.
Yeah, because I looked it up. I'm like,
you know
okay.
what it reminds me of?
What's that?
It reminds me of Heart of a Child. You know, we get this idea, or somewhere along the way during my sobriety, that like we were born, you know, with the heart of a child. But as you go through life, it might like harden, and you know, you're told certain things aren't appropriate once you get older, and like all that kind of stuff, like you were just saying. And then it seems like later in life, the people who are really kind of trying to grow and become their best selves, or you know what? Retract what I just said, grow and be their best selves. It seems like later in life is when people start gravitating towards that thought, that childlike heart, because you see these amazing things at the end where they revert back to, I just want to be sort of silly.
Mhm.
Like, you know, like, and you get these hardened people that you were just talking about, people who won't smile, haven't talked to the doctor, haven't done all this, and all of a sudden they burst out. And it's like it almost feels like they've been wanting to do it. They just didn't have a catalyst. You know, they like needed an out. And all of a sudden Bullseye shows up. Yeah. And Bullseye shows up as like, in their mind, it's probably like, God just sent me a clown. You know what I mean? For like a religious person, like I could see that being like, God, you know exactly what I needed. I needed a clown. No one else could have predicted that. No one else saw it for me. I didn't even know it. And then all of a sudden, Bullseye shows up and tells me that he is happy and joyful for today and happy to meet me. You know what I mean? Made me feel good, like had some value for today. That's huge. That's huge. That's exactly what we're trying to do on here. And he has the guts to go out there and do it in uniform, do it in other countries. It's an honor meeting you, because I mean, you took something, man, I can't say enough about this. You took something that happened to you earlier in life and you twisted it and said, nope, I'm going to be the person that protects that person. I'm going to be the person who tells them that they're worth it, that they, you know, that we all have value. And how many seeds have you planted? How many people have you helped that you'll never even know about? But
we'll have to get you out on our next story. We'll have to get you to Guatemala in February. Get you dressed up and like,
I will go.
I think you should.
I will go. I would 100% go if given the invite. I would go, and I would cry probably every time someone laughed, or like, it's too much for me, you know. Because when you're pouring into somebody, you can feel it. You know what I mean? Like you can actually feel it in your heart, like a freedom. Like it's tearing me up right now, but like just pouring into someone, telling them that they're enough, that they're worth it, that they're valuable, that, you know, it's just an amazing thing. It's making me cry right now. And a lot of times, like especially when you're young, we talked about it before, but I had some childhood trauma. It sounds like you had some childhood trauma. and you believe it because these are
Oh,
people, you know, your adults that are around you who are telling you these things about yourself, and you can only you believe it, you know, and you're trying to sort it out in your own head with a child's mind, you know, who should never be going through that kind of stuff. And it's just, you know, I had all this inside of me, and people didn't know it when they would say things to me or whatever, but it did strike chords inside of me that were very secret, you know, and it would hurt me and all that kind of stuff. But I found out later in life, after I was able to get that secret out of me, that not only am I not the only one, but I wasn't wrong, that I was a child, that I was not a sinner, that there was, you know, I wasn't born with any sort of defect. No matter how I look, no matter how I walk, talk, whatever it is, it's exactly how I was supposed to be, you know. And it's just, it's crazy that someone like you who went through that early in life is able to turn that back around and inspire other people to do the same. I mean, we're talking to a Patch Adams right here. Like this is huge. Like this is amazing. Anyone who's watched Patch Adams, anyone who hasn't needs to run out immediately and go watch it, because you'll walk away, I would say, a better person, to tell you the truth.
and like I said,
Because
I would love for you to both watch his documentary called Clown Vets. It's on YouTube, where he takes the vets
yeah.
on a clown trip, so you can kind of see what a clown trip is like, what we kind of do. The ones I take to Guatemala, we take them very small. We have like maybe no more than 10 clowns go, because then it gives us a little bit more opportunity to meet more people. You know, if you got, I feel if you got
Yeah.
so many clowns going, you might just latch onto one kid, because we don't want people to kind of interrupt. Like if you're having a moment with someone, we don't want another clown coming by and breaking that moment up. And a lot of times when you get too many clowns
Right.
and they're all trying to clamor for the same kids, we like to just take a small group. And you know, you were talking about, you know, how the clown trips help the clown, the person who's going, like the person with PTSD. And when you're dressed like this, it gives you the permission to play, because as we were just talking about
Mm,
a little bit, we were talking about it a little bit ago. As we get older, we're told that it's not appropriate for us to be silly in this particular moment. It's not. We have to be serious at work. We got to be serious when we're taking the kids to school. You know, things like this gives you a permission to play,
yeah.
and then it gives the people that you're, you know, you might walk into we go into a senior community over in Guatemala. It is the most depressing little senior community. I mean, these people, I mean, they're the most wonderful people, but we find them sitting on the hot pavement, and you know, we take them food because the only way they get food is if people donate food to them. They don't provide them food otherwise. So people have to donate food to them. So we go in there, and it's just amazing to watch them. They'll get up and they'll dance with us, and they'll have fun with us. They're not like that when we first get there. They're all like, you know, laying on the hot sidewalk, and they're, you know, all slumped over. By the time we leave, um, they've all had we sang songs. We do learn. We learn Jesus Loves Me, and we learn a few songs in Spanish that we can sing for them. Um, and so we kind of are able to engage them that way. We do have like a local pastor who goes with us. So he takes like a boombox and he will play Spanish songs that he knows they'll know. And so we'll dance with
Yeah.
them. And like I said, I do this thing where I take a napkin and I can turn it into a rose. And so I make roses for the ladies. You know, like, so we do,
Mm.
you know, we do like temporary tattoos. We do, you know, whatever, balloon animals, whatever it takes to get them engaged. And it allows them a chance to play. I have these little rubber chickens. There's the dumbest things I found on Amazon. They're like a little rubber chicken. They're about that long. They're a slingshot. And so I will flip them at people, and the seniors love them. They'll actually take them and they'll be flipping them at each other. And it just allows them the chance to play, you know? And so that's
Yeah.
really what this is all about, is giving you the opportunity, and the permission to be a kid again and to play, and to bring that side of yourself out, because most of us forget how to do that.
Yeah.
Well said. That makes a lot of sense. It gives
I
you
love it.
permission as the clown to be a clown, but it gives everyone else who encounters you permission to play. That is so well said. That it disarms them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Very cool.
Brings out that child mindset again a little bit.
Yep.
Now, I guess I can't let you go without hearing what you would say to someone old, young, whatever it is, who might be getting bullied, and what you might say to that person to encourage them to get through it, or I don't know. What would you say if I was like, man, I don't know how to get through this. I've got these guys continuously just harassing me. I just want to go to school. What should I do?
Well, like I said, I kind of touched on some of them at the beginning. Like I said, what happens, what works for me may not work for everybody else. Like I said, what worked for me was basically one, I would remap my day, as we talked about. I would find out where am I getting bullied at the most? Is there a specific time of the day? Is there a certain place? And then I would avoid that place at that time. And that's one of the things.
Okay.
Like I said, I've never been a big proponent of necessarily telling anyone that I was being bullied, just because, again, if you tell somebody that you're being bullied, it's going to tick the bully off. And if nobody does anything with that information, it's either falling on deaf ears or nothing is going to get done about the situation.
And it's actually proving nothing's going to happen, so I can keep picking on you.
Right, exactly. And the one thing I wish I had done early on was to actually stand up for myself. That doesn't necessarily mean that I would fight back, but tell them, no, what you're saying is not appropriate. This is not going to happen here. And actually stand up for myself. I might have got my face punched if I did that. But at least they know, and be loud and vocal about it. The more attention you can draw to what's happening when it's happening is going to alert more people. And they know, and basically because the bully attacks you because they think that you're not paying attention. Make sure that you're aware of your surroundings. Know when people are walking around and ready to bully you. I tended to walk with my head down a lot, so it's like, just pick your head up and, make sure that you're aware of what's happening around you. And really, but for me, I don't know if anybody watches Joyce Meyer on television. She's like a television pastor. But one of the things,
my mom likes her.
Yeah,
she's in Missouri, isn't she?
Yeah. I think Fenton, Missouri. But one of the things she says is, is that, when you're born with two things. You're born with power and authority. And she says, nobody can ever take your authority away from you and your power away from you unless you give it to them. And by not saying something and by not standing up, you're giving away your authority. So the good news is, of course, at any time you can take that back by standing up for yourself and telling people that that's not appropriate. So, because she said, even the devil might be more powerful than you, but he doesn't have the authority to overtake you unless you give it to him. And so it's kind of like, if you're standing,
this goes right into line with something. I'm sorry, keep going.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, this fits right into line with something I was just reading about, or just watched, or saw a meme or something. I think it was a video. You're, just like you said, born with all that power and authority inside of you, or you're already born with the power of the Holy Spirit inside of you. Is how this video was talking about it. And it's not like you need to pray to ask for the Holy Spirit to come into you. It's already there. It's only going to come out the more you believe it's there, and the more you let it come out. The more you buy into the Holy Spirit being there, the more it can shine and come out of you and show off to you. So that's the same kind of thing. Your power is already there. It's God-given. You can give it. You can give away that authority to other people and let them have dominion over you, or you can stand up for yourself and take back what's yours and have that authority and power shine out. Let that Holy Spirit shine out. And it's going to be the same thing with what you're trying to say there. Standing up for yourself with that bully, that keeping that authority yourself. Hey, this isn't right. I don't approve of it. Just that simple can be the thing that can push your bully away, because it certainly works in pushing the devil away. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's perfect.
It's funny how things feed in together. I mean, everything, like, we'll get off this take, and I'll watch something on YouTube later tonight, and it's going to remember something that you said to me, and I'll see it in a different light, and I'll think about it in a different light, and I'll remember it in a different light, and I'll be able to share it later on in a positive way.
I couldn't have said it better.
It's just amazing how everything works. It's just amazing how it all works. Oh, you do it. You look a lot better than I do doing it. That's for darn sure. I need to get me the nose and the makeup going.
That's right.
So I can disarm people with my messages.
And it's amazing what we're talking about is a big topic of conversation all over society now, like taking back your power. So when you work that backwards, it's like, when did I give it away? Because I know I have. I've let people's opinion of me shape how I see myself, which is so backwards. You know, it's just I would get to the point where I'm thinking for you, and what I'm thinking you're thinking is actually affecting me emotionally. So I've
Right.
almost like given that power away, and man, grabbing it back, Bullseye, that's the toughest part, you know.
It
And
is.
there's, you know, one thing is to
Because as you said, when we're young, we believe whatever they tell us. We don't look back. If I was looking back at it, when my stepfather told me that I was never going to amount to anything, and that if I was really looking back on it, I'm like, well, you're an alcoholic and you can't keep a job. What authority do
Mhm.
you have to be telling me that I'm not going to amount to anything when you can't even keep a job? I didn't even think about that at the time. But then as I was looking back on the
And
whole
how
thing,
does saying that to a child, and
yeah,
how does saying that to a child make him feel better?
right.
Yeah, his little trauma child was coming out because he was talking like a 4-year-old too.
Mhm.
He was talking
To
to
a
himself.
4-year-old.
He was
Yeah.
talking to himself as a 4-year-old to a 4-year-old stepchild in front of him.
Well,
More than likely, he was damaged too. It doesn't excuse it. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
yeah,
But just trying to
absolutely.
understand it and free yourself from that, the burden of the
Well,
things that he was telling you. You should
well,
never tell yourself that or anybody else that.
Bullseye gave us a key piece of advice, and it was the way he got away from that pain was getting outside of himself.
Okay.
And he went into service for like what, the 14 days in Moscow, and like suddenly you came home and it was like you arrived home a different person, and it's
Yeah.
because you had been pouring out so much of yourself, you know. And man,
Well,
I
what
just
what
want to
I'll,
be like
what,
you.
what
I'm
I will
trying
say
to
is,
do it on here, but
what is not
You
working or
are,
what?
Cameron. You're doing it.
we're trying. But
Well, like,
Well, we're on our own self-doubters, of
say,
course.
well, yeah. Well, it's a
We all
be
do that.
careful. Be careful what you pray for. Be careful what you wish for. Because I said, Lord, I want to help people. I just never thought I'd have to do it like this. You
Well,
know.
but when the door opened, you ran through it and you
I
ran with
did.
it.
Yep.
And look at you
Yep.
now. I mean, but there's
Yeah.
just something. There's another lesson there too. When you feel stuck and don't know where to go, and you don't know what door God is opening for you, you'll know because the flood is going to push you right through. The flood of emotion, the floods of feelings, the flood of grace, the flood of the Holy Spirit, whatever it is, it's going to push you right through there. And it's going to feel good. It's going to feel right. It's going to feel like you belong there. And I
Well,
assume that's probably what it did feel like in Russia because you kept doing it.
Actually, when the door first opened, I was like, I was telling him earlier, I thought this was going to be a one and done thing. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go to Russia this one time and that's it. And so they just kept nagging on me. I kept thinking about the woman in the hospice and the woman at the bus stop. And, I met a little boy with cerebral palsy. I met a little girl who was scared in the orphanage. And so I kind of took her under all these things started coming back and I kept trying to like put them out of my mind. And I'm like, well, how can I do that stuff here, in the United States where I don't have to go to Russia? And then I started working with seniors in senior communities here, and going into senior communities and helping them out there, just clowning with them and doing things like that. And then I kept doing the trips with Patch Adams every year just to kind of keep the empathy up and all of that stuff. But then again, I decided to go in and start doing my own clown tours to Guatemala. So that's kind of where I've focused now, is doing the Clowns on a Mission and finding other people who want to be the hero with us and go in with us and actually help the children of Guatemala and the families in Guatemala. Because like I said, we don't just clown with the children there. It's just kind of kept up, and that's kind of, I guess, this is where God wants me. So I guess this is how I'm going to go into my old age. I just hope my skin doesn't sag too much because it's hard to put makeup on saggy skin. So
you just have to pull it, and stretch it, and yeah,
exactly.
all that.
Your,
So
your,
if
your, your makeup lines might have to start changing to coincide
Yeah.
with the wrinkles.
Well, that's actually
that's
what I
true.
do. Is I actually pay. That's how I actually paint these here. Is I actually will look up like this, and wherever the crease is in my forehead, that's actually where I paint them. So
It's already starting.
yeah, but I
Well,
just
look,
paint it.
will you help scatter my remains at my funeral?
Sure.
Only one thing though, I don't want to be cremated. I don't want to be cremated.
Well, that might
Well,
be
that'll
kind
be
of tough.
awkward.
Okay.
That'll be awkward.
Sorry.
Either one big chunk or bits. It'll
That's
be
right.
awkward.
I'm a clown too sometimes, I guess. But
Now, Bullseye.
humor is great. Humor
It
is great
is.
at disarming and opening things up and getting good conversations and good flows and good positivity going. Man, why not?
Absolutely.
I'm with you. I'm here
Absolutely.
for you.
Now, if anyone wants to get a hold of you, Bullseye, I'm going to put the information in the bio when we release the episode and all that kind of stuff. But what's the best place to reach out to you if someone wanted to get a hold of you for questions or even book you? How would that go?
Clownsonamission.com is our website. I also have a website at
Okay.
bullseyetheclown.com. So you can leave messages at either
Yep.
place. I'm on Instagram at Clowns on a Mission Official on Instagram. And Facebook, you can find me on, just type in Bullseye the Clown on Facebook. There is another Bullseye the Clown who's a little more scary than I am. So I'm the one that's cuter, you know.
The cuter Bullseye.
Yes, that's right.
Because I think that hopefully you'll get some calls from this. No matter what, whoever listens to this is going to get a breath of fresh air because
I hope they
that's what
share
you,
it.
yeah, and that's
Even
what
if
you're
they don't
bringing.
share the actual video, I hope they share the positive message. Then they wave at somebody at the bus stop and make them laugh or something. Tap on the window by the bus or something. You know,
and like I
something.
said,
Get inspired
you
to
know,
do something. Make somebody laugh.
yeah, it may not happen for everybody.
Yeah.
It may not work for everybody. But like I said, that's, advice is kind of like, works that way. I can read a self-help book and some of the stuff doesn't apply to me. So you just kind of toss what doesn't work for you. Maybe apply something else that might work for you. You don't know until you try. I mean, I never thought that this was the way my life was going to go. So there you go. If you'd have told me, I used to laugh at my dad because my dad would wear like striped pants and a plaid shirt. And I was like, Dad, that doesn't even match. That doesn't even look good. And so now I go and I do the same thing. So
That's really funny. That's so funny. Well, thank you again, Bullseye. It's been an absolute pleasure meeting you. I will let you know personally when we're putting up the episode. It'll probably be in a couple weeks.
okay.
And I think you've already sent me your bio and all. Well, I've got that. I can get that. I might reach out to you just to make sure I've got the right Facebook or Instagram and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Make sure we got all those details right. But if we can ever do anything for you, please let us know.
Yeah.
And I'm going to talk to my wife tonight about February, which is my birthday month, and maybe I can turn my birthday present into a clowning trip, which
When's
would
your
be an
birthday?
amazing thing.
When your
February
birthday?
7th.
Okay, well, this is the 10th to the
February.
17th, so it'll be right after your birthday.
There we go.
There you
And I've
go.
never been to Guatemala.
Yeah, so it'll be
And
fun.
I've never done anything. I bet it would be really fun, and I'm actually serious about it. So I'm going to be following up with you. I think that's something amazing, and I really commend you, sir. You're very inspiring. You inspire me just by the way you're getting out there. It's not sacrificing yourself. It's just like putting yourself to the side and being like, I'm here to help and pour into people. It's so inspiring. I can't get enough of it. And yeah, besides that, you got any last final words, or did you enjoy meeting with us? Was this what
I
you
did.
expected today?
I didn't know what to expect.
Okay.
Like I said, a lot of times I go into these thinking this is like a quiz that I forgot to study for. I'm like, I just hope I know the answers to these questions. So
Yeah,
so
that's how I get. I'm like last second, I'm like, panicky. And then I have to just be like, you know what? Whatever comes out, comes out. And if it lands on someone the right way, then that's the best I can do. And,
That's where
and
I'm
that's
at.
sir,
exactly, that's
yeah, and
exactly
sir,
it. Yep.
you showed up today. You let us know exactly what's going on and how you're helping people, and you are inspiring people on a daily basis. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
And if you
for
come
having
up
me.
with some more stories later on, you want to come back and tell us some more stuff, just let us know. You're welcome back anytime you want, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh well, see,
Yes, sir.
I think we should get him to Guatemala, and then we could come back and we could do find out what his experience was like in Guatemala.
Yeah,
I
I
think
almost
that's
went twice, but I haven't gone yet.
Oh, that'd be fun.
The military thing. Yeah.
A more military thing than clowning, but
Well, you can be a
different kind of
military
makeup.
clown.
Be a military clown. I'll do green and black makeups and stuff.
There you go.
Yeah. That would be really funny. Probably turn into some sort of news article.
This could be great or horrible. I don't know which one yet.
Yeah, there's a military clown running rampant in Guatemala. I don't know what's going on. So,
It could be
all
funny.
right, buddy. Thank you so much.
Thank
I'm gonna
you.
go ahead and hit stop.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.